A Kuna elementary schooler was secluded alone inside small rooms at school, sometimes for hours at a time. It's unclear whether staff believed Emmitt Flick or others faced an imminent serious threat in every incident because of his behavior. But Emmitt's mom believes many of the seclusions were not only inappropriate, they were illegal. Tonight, we begin part one of our three-part investigative series, Secluded in School.
Ready?
Yeah. Whoop. Oh my goodness.
He was having accidents at school on a regular basis. And he's been potty trained since he was 3.
You have to hold my hand.
Okay.
Finally one day I just said, "Emmett, why are you having accidents at school?" And he said, "Because I don't want to be locked in the bathroom." And I knew right then that that was because he has been placed in the seclusion room so many times that now he has a fear of being locked in spaces.
Ready? That was a good throw.
Emmitt Flick is like a lot of 8-year-old boys, full of energy and loves to play. But what happened to him inside 2 Kuna elementary schools between kindergarten and 2nd grade left him afraid of something most of us never think twice about: a closed door.
These are symptoms of trauma. Like, I have to voice my concerns at this point because this is not okay what's happening to my son.
Among other diagnoses, Emmett has disruptive mood dysregulation disorder and anxiety.
He just at baseline is irritable. He has explosive behaviors.
At home, Kayla says she and her husband know how to de-escalate Emmett when he becomes dysregulated.
You getting tired already?
But at school, it was a different story.
Within a couple weeks of school starting, he was put in seclusion.
Kayla asked for Emmett's seclusion reports, which the school is required to fill out whenever restraint and seclusion are used. This 2022 report shows Emmett first landed in seclusion in kindergarten for throwing items off a bookcase and at students.
Emmett was in seclusion for 2 hours, and I feel like that sort of set the foundation for how he felt about school. So now this is a 5-year-old little boy, and he has fear and anxiety related to going to school because of the seclusion.
Seclusion is the involuntary confinement of a student alone in a room or area from which they're physically prevented from leaving, or perceive they're not allowed to leave. Staff have to monitor throughout, but don't have to be in the room. It's not the same as a timeout, which is part of an approved behavior plan. In 2023, a new Idaho law limited seclusion to situations where a student's conduct puts themselves or others in imminent danger of serious bodily harm.
It's essentially harm that can result in death, disfigurement, or loss or impairment of a bodily function or organ. It is a really high threshold of use.
Guy Stevens, founder of the national group Alliance Against Seclusion and Restraint, says even with stronger laws, seclusion is still used inappropriately.
Very often we see kids restrained and secluded, not for that really high threshold of a life-threatening situation, but we see them restrained or secluded for non-compliance, for minor behaviors, for not following directions, or becoming dysregulated.
Idaho law prohibits seclusion as punishment or behavior management. Guidance from the State Department of Education caps seclusion at 30 minutes, except in extreme circumstances. Do you feel like the Kuna School District is following that law?
No, I don't.
Several of Emmett's seclusion reports Kayla provided to 7 Investigates come after the new law took effect. Some show Emmett in seclusion for 2 to 4 hours, often with the door shut. One report shows he was secluded for an entire school day. Behavior school staff said led to seclusion included climbing on a bookshelf, kicking, yelling, threatening violence and death, throwing things at staff, and in 2 cases, serving an in-school suspension.
The law states it cannot be used for punishment, and having him spend his in-school suspension in there is punishment.
It can be a lot for families.
Melissa Vian with Idaho Parents Unlimited says de-escalation should always come first.
We should be using positive behavior interventions and support before we even get to the point of that restraint and seclusion.
Seclusion reports show staff tried giving Emmett space and time, speaking calmly, and offering sensory options before placing him in the room. But Kayla believes the way they handled it only escalated him, and that putting him in seclusion made things worse.
It doesn't de-escalate him. It's only increased his behaviors. So why would you continue to use it?
A lot of the behavior we see in kids, especially kids with disabilities, is often kind of bottom up behavior. It is coming because you have a dysregulated child that doesn't feel safe. And when we meet that child and rather than supporting them in the moment, we put demands on them, it leads to that further escalation.
Through a public records request, we obtained these photos of a classroom converted into multiple small seclusion or quiet rooms in Emmett's former school, with padding on the walls, windows in the doors, and handles on the outside, but not the inside. The school district's attorney declined to comment for this story, citing federal law protecting individual student records and the Flicks' ongoing separate lawsuit against the school district. The Flicks claim Kuna broke federal disability law by keeping Emmett in distance learning longer than they agreed. In April, the district's attorney asked the judge to dismiss the family's suit, claiming they missed the deadline to deliver court papers.
I sent him to school thinking that he would be safe, and instead he left school traumatized. That's really hard for me to reconcile with. That really, really hurts, knowing that he went through that and I wasn't there to keep him safe. It really, really breaks my heart.
Kayla says she filed 2 complaints with the State Department of Education, but they sided with the district each time. Vian says there's not a lot of oversight when it comes to monitoring use of seclusion rooms in schools. Who ensures that districts are following that law?
We have a complaint mechanism with the Idaho State Department of Education in the event that families feel an IEP was out of compliance. But just every day, there's probably not a lot of oversight.
Uh-oh. Don't let me fall.
Kayla ultimately took Emmett out of the Kuna school district and is homeschooling him.
Do you think you'll ever send Emmett back to school?
Emmett does not feel safe at school. He doesn't trust adults, and school brings up a lot of anxiety for him. And so right now, like, my goal for Emmett is to feel safe. He's got to heal from what he's gone through.
Local school districts all have their own policies surrounding restraint and seclusion. Most are very similar, and they follow a sample policy from the State Department of Education. According to many of those policies, seclusion might also be included in a student's BIP, a behavior intervention plan, as a last resort, as long as it's thoroughly detailed and agreed upon by the parents. Public records requests show some Idaho school districts have used seclusion hundreds, even thousands of times in recent years. Tomorrow, we investigate who's affected most and whether anyone is being held accountable.